So I very much believe that AI is a tool, just like Illustrator. And creativity comes from the person. And so it'll be more and more important for creatives to wield their creative powers to be able to generate the outputs that are high quality with AI. And that won't ever change.
Hi, welcome to Brand Storytellers, where we talk about brands with the people who create their stories. If you like our content, we'd ask you to subscribe to our channel, give us a like on this episode, and maybe make a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Today, we're going to learn to be a little less afraid of AI because our guest, Jessica Rosenberg, who is a CD at Jasper AI, is going to share with us how they put together AI toolboxes for advertising teams to do better creative work. Before Jessica started working in AI, she worked at some of the best creative agencies in America. So she knows both sides of that equation. So your background is conventional advertising. I mean, you started your career in conventional advertising. Now you moved into the AI space more exclusively. So can you tell us a little bit about kind of your beginning in advertising, like how
Yeah.
you got started, where you worked?
Yeah. So I studied traditional communication design, graphic design at Carnegie Mellon. However, since I was a kid, I was mesmerized by and collected Absolute Vodka ads, milk ads. When I found out that could be someone's job, I was like, I will have that job one day. And I was
Yeah.
about, I think I was like in the seventh grade when I was like, this will be me. And so since then, I made it my personal mission to work in advertising, study design. When I graduated, I was looking for jobs. I had some internships in college at some design studios in New York, but I still really wanted to work in advertising. And I landed a contract design slash art director gig at an agency in New York. At the time, they were called Kirschenbaum Bond and Partners.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of, great experience as being my first year out of school. I eventually became full time there, worked there for about a year and a half. And a friend of mine who also worked in New York in the advertising design industry, she was moving out to Boulder, Colorado to be part of this exciting new interactive creative space within an agency called Crispin Porter and Bogusky. And so if you work in advertising, I'm sure you know the legacy that is Crispin. I learned so much about just like how to think unconventionally and how to tell stories in a way that are unexpected and attention grabbing and really like tap into the cultural zeitgeist, which is what I ended up just being obsessed with when it came to brand and creative and storytelling.
Well, and kind of creating the zeitgeist, if
Yeah,
all the
totally.
fine work that they did.
I moved out west, freelanced for a while for a variety of different advertising agencies.
Yeah.
Goodby called. I went up to San Francisco and freelanced with them for a while. But while I was in San Francisco, I started dipping my toes in the startup and tech pool
Hmm.
and realized that I loved it. I loved and ever since I was little, I was always very nerdy with tech. I would always like tinker with computers and code. It's been about 15 years. I worked at Twitter for many years back when it was Twitter and the Bluebird was still the Bluebird logo. Um, and then eventually got to, lead teams at Cloudflare, which is an internet security company, Mural, digital whiteboard, Webflow, no code tool, and now Jasper.
Kind of interesting. It's interesting that you went to Goodby. That's kind of full circle from what got you started, the got milk. That's so ironic.
I know, totally.
Well, I'm fascinated about you said that you were always attracted to techie things. So were
Hmm.
you the kid that liked to take things apart and see how they worked?
Oh yeah, definitely. Actually, let me I have yet. Well, I've taken this apart a few times, which is probably why it doesn't turn on anymore. But the original
Yeah.
iPod, I'm a very big fan of. I have like the original Game Boy up there, which I've taken
Oh no.
apart. The original iPod. I have a whole story about how I waited in line for the first iPhone in Soho in New York when it came out. So
Oh
I'm
man.
a very big
Yeah.
believer, an investor in the firsts of technology, if that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. Well, we're kindred spirits in that. As soon as I saw the 1984 spot in the Super Bowl, I was making nothing. I mean, I lived in a hovel, and
Hmm.
I was making
Hmm.
nothing. But I went out and purchased on credit an
Yeah.
Apple 512K computer that basically did nothing,
Yeah.
but it taught me how the platform and
Hmm.
make draw. So the tech thing attracted you.
Yes.
You're and then the entrepreneurial aspect of it attracted you. So let's take it. Let's fast forward up to
Mhm.
today and what you're doing today. Tell me how that transpired.
Yeah. So I first learned about Jasper, the company I'm at today, when I was actually working at Webflow. And Jasper was a customer, an enterprise customer of Webflow, and designed and built their entire website on Webflow, which is like a no-code development platform.
Mm-hmm.
And I met one of the founders, and I just, in general, I love being connected to customers of the company that I'm working at for, to learn more about how they're using the product and just to learn more about their world. So I got connected to Jasper in that scenario at Webflow, and then just kept tabs on them. And this was
Mm.
around the time where AI was starting to make waves, like back in 2022, 2023, when Midjourney was first coming out, ChatGPT made its first public debut. The wave was starting.
Mm.
And I was like, I need to work at a company in AI. The moment I used Midjourney for the first
Mm.
time and experienced the magic, is probably a similar feeling
And
to
it
what
is
you feel.
magic. It is
Yeah.
just magic.
But like when you were talking about you like making an ad on the computer for the first
Yeah.
time, that's how I felt with AI. I was like, this is going to change
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
And I knew it in my core. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I need to work at a company that's at the forefront of this because I'm so inspired by it as a
Mm-hmm.
creative. And I want to be able to tell that story to the world. And so the universe made it happen where Jasper was looking for a creative director. I applied, loved the team, and ultimately joined about a year ago. And
And
it's
is
been
Jasper? They're headquartered in Austin.
so they were initially the founders started the company in Austin,
Okay.
and since last summer we've gone fully remote. So now the
Oh, okay.
entire company is distributed globally.
Yeah, that happens more and more, which is totally fine.
Yeah,
It's the way it should be because you can draw on so much more talent and diverse of thought and all of that. It's just beneficial. What technology's done for us in that regard.
yeah,
So tell me a little bit about what exactly does Jasper do?
yeah. So Jasper is an AI platform for marketing teams. So let's say that you work at. I'm gonna give a company. Let's say you work at Airbnb. You're on the marketing team at Airbnb. They're not a customer yet, but maybe one day. Uh,
A big plug
Thinking
going
of a
right
big
there.
brand name with marketing team. Maybe this is a subconscious message for
Yeah,
Airbnb to consider us. I don't know.
yeah.
You're on the marketing team, Airbnb. There's lots of different marketers that are part of a marketing team. You have a product marketer, you have content marketing that's writing blog posts, social media.
Yeah,
You've got
yeah.
folks spinning up campaigns. So what Jasper can do is allow you to upload your brand guidelines, company knowledge, anything that can help the AI contextualize your businesses and brands world. And then
Mm,
when you're ready to start generating content, you can fire up different apps within the product. So let's say you want to create a social media campaign for a new launch at Airbnb. You spin
mm,
up the social media app in Jasper, you enter some information, you upload context. Maybe it's a brief from the product marketing team that is telling Jasper more about the launch. You enter some information, you hit enter, Jasper generates that entire social media campaign for you in seconds.
and it does that from the learning that it does in your interactions with it.
So it does that. So basically, the base model of Jasper, it leverages ChatGPT,
Okay.
Anthropic, Google
Hmm.
Gemini as like the LLMs.
I
And
see.
then that's the first layer. The second layer is what we call the context layer. And
Hmm.
that's the brand guidelines that you feed the LLMs. It's the product marketing brief that goes into it. Any other contextual information that can help essentially train the LLM to output
Hmm.
the messaging for you. But then what's also unique to Jasper is what we call the marketing layer, the marketing IQ. And
Hmm.
if you think of it this way, this is a very ridiculous analogy, but think of like little like marketing like expert gnomes within the product. And these are
Hmm.
like it's like a trained layer of marketing experts that know the world of marketing. They know the ins and outs of what makes great marketing. And so that's the other layer on top of the contextual brand guidelines, et cetera. So you kind of got these like two layers feeding the LLMs, marketing expertise, your brand's knowledge, and then that essentially um, equips the LLM to output content that's like very on brand and marketing specific, if that makes
Okay,
sense.
define that acronym that you just used for us. The
LLM,
Yeah.
large language model.
Okay. And I'm sure that a lot of people know that, but there's going to be a lot of people like me that's like, okay, I'm trying to keep up with that. That
Yeah,
makes
sorry.
sense.
I'm so immersed in AI that I'm
I
like,
no,
oh,
totally get it. Totally
acronym
get
this,
it.
acronym that.
I've
Yeah.
heard that. I've heard
Yeah.
it, but I just
Yeah.
need
Yeah.
a memory jog. So tell me about, okay, what's the ideal customer for this? The ideal user for this?
Marketing teams, particularly enterprise marketing teams.
So any scale, small agency, large agency, big
Um,
corporation,
big
what is
big
Jasper's?
corporation. Yeah, I would say big corporations across various industries. We see a lot of retail and e-commerce customers. So
Okay.
Wayfair, Home Depot, they leverage Jasper primarily. The interesting use case with retail is, when companies have thousands, maybe millions of product descriptions to write across their website, and they can leverage Jasper to do that way faster and way more efficiently than before. So retail is a big one. Tech, B2B,
Mhm.
SaaS.
So it sounds like
Yeah,
more on the business side of marketing versus going through the conventional agency model. Is that
correct.
fair?
At least
Uh,
today. Yeah.
yeah. So I was going to ask because you're talking about this, and I'm going through my head. You know, as an agency owner, I had if Jasper was around back when I had my agency, I'd be going, how do I use this tool, and how fast can I
Yeah.
use it?
We've
Because
started to see agencies like McCann, I think,
hmm
Global is starting to use it for their brands,
yeah.
which is an interesting use case when we're starting to see that more and more. So it's definitely starting to happen.
Now, there
Yes.
is a lot of chatter, I'm sure you see on LinkedIn about
Hmm.
AI in the advertising space. Um, and there's always the critic of it from the standpoint of its quality, and that's
Yeah.
natural.
Yeah.
So, what's your I guess what's your platform? What's your bandstand as far as convincing people the usefulness and the creativity that you get from AI?
Yeah. So I very much believe that AI is a tool, just like Illustrator. And creativity comes from the person. And so it'll be more and more important for creatives to wield their creative powers to be able to generate the outputs that are high quality with AI. And that won't ever change. The same with any other tool you might use to design or create with Illustrator. If you're designing a logo, you still need the taste, vision, craft, strategy to be able to execute in creating that logo in Illustrator and for it to be a great logo, right? I very
Right.
much believe it's the same for AI. Yeah.
I love using AI and talking to it like it's a person on the other end.
Yeah.
I'm very conversational with it. I say
Yeah.
please and thank you and all
Yeah.
of that
Good.
because, oh yeah, because I feel like that's conducive to the technology. That the more you relate to it as a human, the more it can relate back to you as a
Hmm.
human. Is that
Hmm.
fair?
That's interesting. I think so. I mean, I tend to be very direct with my AI interactions, and I don't think, and I look at how I interact with people, and I'm definitely not that short and direct with people. So it's interesting that you are. Maybe I should be nicer to the AI. It's probably in my
You
best
know,
interest. I don't know.
I think it's because of my age. Because I will tell you, one of the things I noticed. So, for example, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. The original Star Wars. I remember when I went to see the original Star Wars when it came out. I was right out of high school, and it came out. And I mean, you talk about being blown away. There was
Yeah,
nothing like that.
yeah.
And but one thing I noticed was how rude they were to C3PO. You know,
Mm-hmm.
they'd ask him a question and he would start talking, and yeah, he was a jabberbox. But then he would say, "Shut up, shut up, that's enough." You know, and I would think you
Yeah,
would never talk to a person like that. Why would you
yeah,
talk to that robot like that? And because it has a human interface.
yeah.
So I think I that came to mind when I started using Chat GPT and the other AI, and I was typing in my commands. I was thinking, "Don't be rude. Don't be rude to C3PO."
I love that. No, it's true. I mean, there was a time recently where I was asking ChatGPT for advice, and I use the audio feature a lot because it
Uh-huh.
responds and it sounds like a person. So I'm like, I end up being nicer to it when I'm in a dialogue with when it sounds more like a human. But it gave me really good advice that I was like impressed by. And so I was like,
Yeah.
thank you. This is super
Yeah.
helpful. And it goes, you're
Yeah.
welcome. And it gave me a little heart emoji. I was like,
Yeah.
are
Oh.
we best friends now?
Well, you know why I think that's important, because I think the way we I think technology has taken a lot of our humanness away.
Yeah.
People are much harsher because of social media, because of the
Mhm.
protective shield between
Yeah.
us. And just like being in a car, people are super rude driving, that
Yeah.
they would never do that. Or if two people were walking to a door, you would open the door for the other person, let them in. Boy, you're not going to let them in when you're in your
Yeah.
car, though. And so I look at it like this with AI. It If we start treating AI rudely and without feeling, we will treat each other that way. It will spill over. It will bleed. So
Yeah.
I know that's quirky. You know, people might
No, I
laugh
like
at
it.
it here. I may edit that statement out that I make,
I
because they
think
think,
it's
Bart,
no, I
Bart,
think
you're crazy.
it's definitely valid because I see folks using like I am in Chat GPT constantly throughout the day for a
Yeah,
variety of reasons. And
yeah,
also Jasper and tools like Midjourney and Runway, like the list goes on.
yeah.
And the more we're interacting with these AI tools, it's going to train us to communicate in a certain way with people.
That's
And
right.
so there's definitely validity to what you're saying. I
Yeah,
hadn't
I
thought about before.
that's why I do it, because I'm already impatient with people. I mean, I just moving at the speed of sound, trying to get things done. And I remember my employees would always, I would give them their reviews, and then my last question was always, "How can I be a better boss?" I mean, you
Mm.
review me,
Hmm.
and a majority of them say, "You're a really good boss, but you could pat me on the back a little more often." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I compliment you," and they were like, "A little more often." And I was like, "Okay, I get it. I'll try to do that." But I heard it enough. I heard it repeated enough that I knew it was real. I couldn't deny it. It wasn't
Yeah,
somebody that
yeah.
was just seeking affirmation. It was a quality that I needed to improve upon. So tell me a little bit about your tool. You were talking about using Chat GPT and the other tools.
Mhm.
Um, so what's your day like when you're using those? I mean, tell me some circumstances, the
Mhm.
general circumstances of how you would use what tool and
Yeah.
why.
Yeah, I have a recent example, a project that my team and I just worked on where there was a webinar coming up for Jasper, and it was a big one. It happened last week where our CEO and CMO were going to talk about the future of the product this year, their predictions for AI and the marketing industry. Um, and it was kind of an opportunity for the creative team to create something a little more up level than exciting than our normal, like templated webinar promo creative we typically make. And so we had about 2 weeks to ideate a concept and execute on it and push this live so that the teams could start getting RSVPs for this webinar. And I was like, perfect use case for us to lean into AI, but we need ideas first. And so what we did is we brainstormed together as a creative team on Zoom. We're all remote. We concepted, we ideated, we put our heads together on like 3 to 4 distinct ideas that would then inform creative outputs. And we put them in a deck. And we're like, all right, idea one, this is the concept. Let's all hop into Mid Journey and see what comes from it, from a visual exploration.
Mm-hmm.
And so, in like a day or two, we were able to generate visuals in Mid Journey and animated versions of those visuals in a tool called Runway.
Yep.
And we put them into the deck, polished the deck. This was like over the course of maybe 2 or 3 days, and
Mm-hmm.
then sent it to our CMO, folks on the marketing team for review and approval. They were able to quickly approve the concept. And then we got to working on the execution. So the value in this process was that AI allowed us to expedite the concepting phase, which allowed us to spend more time on execution. So we were able to get buy-in really quickly. And then even on the execution part, we spent more time finessing the AI outputs, iterating with it. But at the end of the day, it all laddered up to an overarching concept that we had
So
decided
you
on.
started with some human ideation. You said
Mhm.
you brainstormed together to kind of get directionally thoughts and that type of
Yep.
thing. Then you fed that into AI to see how it could help you elaborate on those things and
Yep.
execute those things. Would that be a fair
Yes, exactly.
reflection? Okay, that's fast. That's fantastic. I love that. Uh, Tell me a little bit. So, Chat GPT, Journey, Mid Journey, Runway, are those the go-to tools for you, or do you use other tools, or are there tools being developed now that excite you?
Yeah. So those are definitely the most common ones, I would say. There's other tools, visual tools that have been popping up that we've been experimenting with that are very promising. One of them is Visual Electric. It's another, it's similar to Midjourney. Recraft is another one, and I can send you all of these links. I
Oh, I
literally, my
love those
list
because I will
is,
put those in
yeah,
our notes.
yeah. So the image based ones are Visual Electric, Recraft, Krea. Those are the three that I find very promising and exciting. Runway for video,
Mm-hmm.
Luma Dream Machine for video is
Mm-hmm.
incredible. The
Yep.
interface is beautiful and the
Right.
outputs are just outstanding. Google's VO2
Yep.
is not publicly available to everyone yet, but what I've
Yeah,
seen from
but you
it,
see people doing things and you go, I want that.
well, I see what it's outputting, and it's going to change the game for production, like TV
Yeah.
production,
Yeah.
film. It's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Absolutely.
Um, and then there's like the task management tools that have been helping my team and I throughout the day. So since we work remotely, we're obviously in Zoom meetings, we're in Slack, we're in email, and there's tools that listen in to all of
Yeah.
our conversations and are able to extract notes, provide
Yeah.
action items for us. So there's like AI tools that aren't creative tools per se, but they help in our workflows day to day.
Yeah. Okay. Work.
And some of
And
those are called Granola.
hmm,
There's one called Hoop, HOOP, and that connects to all your tools. It'll listen and then actually create to do lists for you based on what you've said in your meetings and your emails. So just there's so much at our
yeah.
fingertips that are making us more efficient.
So it sounds like you're going to keep the tool, you're going to keep experimenting to make sure the toolbox is everything the toolbox needs to be.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot on the team. I gave a talk about this a couple weeks ago too. I'm happy to share more about that, the deck with you if you want to see it.
Yes.
About our process with AI, and we call ourselves an AI empowered creative team. And
Okay.
so we don't fully rely on AI, but it empowers us to do more than we were able to do before it existed.
So
And
is that
so we
what your presentation is about? Or is
Yeah,
that the
it talks about what it means to be an AI empowered team, what our process with AI looks like. I like using the term human in the loop. And so our process with AI is pretty much like starts with human ideation, goes to AI, goes back to human refinement, goes back to AI, seek feedback from human collaborators, refine an AI and human, you know,
Ooh, I love
skill
the
set.
infographic in my head right now
Yeah,
from hearing this.
I could
I
share.
ha-
I'll share a
I
screenshot of
need to
it.
see this. I need to
Yeah,
see this, and I want you to. So, what brought that about? What
yeah,
developed that thinking?
yeah. So there's a lot of talk at Jasper around different teams at the company being AI empowered. So our engineering team, for example, they use AI tools to help them code and build the product faster. One of those tools is called Cursor, for example. It's like a
Mhm,
coding co-pilot. And so there are various teams at the company that are leaning into this. The creative team, my team being one.
mhm,
And it feels right since we are an AI first company. It's like how can we pioneer how other creative teams might interact with AI, especially since it's so nascent. And a
mhm.
lot of the creative teams or other creative leaders I've spoken to really don't know how to formally evangelize AI within their teams at work. There's a lot of personal tinkering and exploration, that happens, but there isn't a lot yet of how do we formalize these tools within our day-to-day workflow at work, and how do we actually use them to our advantage and in a process that helps us make the best work possible.
So, do you develop that for the clientele that Jasper works with, the companies that use Jasper to help them maximize the potential of using
Yeah,
Jasper?
yes. So we actually have an AI transformation team at Jasper, and their whole, remit is to go into companies that are using Jasper and help them either stand up AI councils, help them, infuse AI into the entire company's fabric and how they can build processes around it. I think back to one of the Volkswagen spots I worked at when I was at Crispin. We worked with an entire 3D studio on creating like a whole world for the physical that was part of the physical environment that we shot in. It was
Hmm.
a whole process. There was like so many people involved in creating that three-dimensional world, and it came out like looking epic.
Yeah.
But now that AI is at our fingertips, that whole process doesn't need to exist anymore. And
I I
or it's
want
evolving. It's evolving.
I wonder. I don't wonder. I know it will happen. So Crispin, to me, they were right place, right time when technology, like when we broke through the fourth wall,
Hmm.
and there were more tools of communication available to us, and they actually said, well, we'll make whatever an ad, whatever it is,
Hmm.
it will be an ad. And I love that heretical view. And I think that AI is going to give rise to another Crispin. I'm very excited to
There's
see that.
there's already two companies that come to mind.
Okay.
Two are ad guys that I knew from the industry. One company is called Edition, and one of the co-founders, Paul Aaron, who was an integrated producer at Crispin that I worked with. His company is leveraging AI to work with brands like Google in just the coolest ways. I'm not going to do a great job describing the tech and how they make it
It's
happen,
okay.
but they to me are kind of the equivalent of, Crispin back in the day, and they're really pioneering AI in the advertising industry. And then another one, this company called Secret Level, led by a director, Jason Zada, and they are starting to pioneer AI in commercials and film and TV.
So tell me where this goes. Where do you
Mm.
see? What do you see in their little crystal ball that we can
Little
look forward
crystal
to?
ball. There's so many possible outcomes. What I like to say whenever I get asked that is that we're still so early on in this AI wave that we get to write the story of how we want this to go. And I think it's really important for creatives to talk about this with one another. Like, what is the story that we want to tell for ourselves? What is the
Hmm.
future we want to write for the creative industry when an AI is involved? And I think if we don't think about that and kind of put it out, manifest it out into the world, the story will write itself for us. And maybe it won't be a story that we
So
like.
there are probably still people out there that, well, I know there are, that are not proponents of AI.
Hmm.
What do you say to them?
Yeah. So the whole AI is coming for our jobs narrative. My
Could be,
response
yes.
to that, particularly that statement, is that AI is coming for the parts of our jobs that we don't like as creatives.
Love that answer. That's a great
And
answer.
those parts are the minutia, the resizing a million ad banners,
Yeah,
the hand masking out a Photoshop background,
exactly.
um, chasing down people for feedback, brand policing. All of
Yep.
that can be, let's
Yep.
delegate that to AI so we can be more
Yeah.
creative.
I look at it as Iron Man and Jarvis,
Oh my gosh, I
that
use the
Tony.
Iron Man example all the time, actually.
Give us, give me some advice for maybe not just younger people, but people maybe in the midst of their career.
There's also some really great courses that are spinning up by creatives. I guest lectured at one of them last year. There's a cohort about to be announced. This is another link I'll share with you too.
Okay.
I've got a whole list of things to share. But
Okay.
there's some really great courses by experienced creative leaders who have really adopted AI into their process. And the course is for creative folks, marketers, really anyone who wants to learn more about AI and how it can
Ooh,
apply to your professional
definitely
setting.
want to definitely want
Yeah.
that link.
So
So
I'll be guest lecturing there again. It's in
yeah,
April, but I'll share
yeah,
the link with you. But there's some great
yeah.
resources popping up like that.
Well, Jessica's proven to me that we all need an AI toolbox if we're going to do the best work possible. If you enjoyed this episode, we ask you to like it and give us a comment. We'd love to hear from you and subscribe to the channel so we can make more brand storytelling episodes. See you soon.